for the record, there were boneless wings in my Wingstop order last night, so those were there, but they were for my 4-year-old daughter. Welcome into Bettor Hockey Now here on the Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. I am at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard. With me, as always, is Mr. Christopher Morais at FuzzyChris91 and Mr. Anthony Rivera at AntRivera86. Fellas, we are getting near the All-Star break here, and then it's the stretch run after that. How are we feeling as January winds down here?
It's a friendly reminder that we have passed the midway point of the NHL season. We are closer to the end than we are to the beginning.
That's right.
Yeah, it's still, struggling to watch my team play. But we talked about at the beginning of the season, teams taking advantage in the beginning. And just in case they, somewhat have some struggles, we're seeing some top teams struggle right now. And the fact that, they have all of this equity that they can afford to lose some of these games and get themselves back on track for what is the most important run of hockey coming after the All-Star break.
To your point, the Edmonton Oilers, who couldn't have got off to a worse start, and we'll talk more about them later, who are on quite the winning streak right now, they just passed the LA Kings in the Pacific Division this week. The Kings, who are the opposite, who beat everybody to start the year, cannot get out of their own way right now. One of the three of us might be better than Cam Talbot in net right now for the Kings. So, yeah, just to prove your point that you build up that equity, as bad as the things have been for the Kings over the past few weeks, they just got passed by Edmonton. So there you go. Now, before we get on to like the stuff on the ice, obviously some news off the ice this week with the 2018 team Canada junior scandal. We're not going to dive deeply into it here because we're a hockey nuts and bolts on the ice kind of show. But and you're innocent until proven guilty. But if you're the NHL and these guys are proven guilty that they did the things that or a couple of them, whatever the case may be, of doing what's being discussed, especially considering with what happened with the Blackhawks recently and all that mess, make an example of these guys, ban them from NHL for life. And I don't mean it's just a player. I mean, they can't be an assistant coach in 10 years. They can't scout for you. They can't be a special advisor. Send a message that the behavior that's being accused of it's not acceptable in the first place. But if you do that and you think you're above the law because you're a really good hockey player and you got a pro career coming, no, that's it. Your career will end. The good days will end in juniors. So send a message here, NHL. Do the right thing. If these guys are whoever's proven guilty without a doubt, if they play for an NHL team, send a message and do the right thing.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And, I do worry that the NHL may take the stance of, well, they weren't in the NHL at this time. So, it's a little bit of a different story. No, they're in there now. These are behaviors that wouldn't be acceptable anywhere at any time. So they do need to come down if these, allegations and this scandal, if it's true, it does need to be enforced. Something very serious has to be taken care of with the players and how this whole thing went down.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a code of conduct at some point, right? You're not above the law at anything. It would be no different than if somebody, just a regular Joe working a 9 to 5, was committing an alleged crime at that point. So I will say this: the NHL PR department is not going to have a fun time. And usually, when one story starts to roll, you start to get other ones. So I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg, and the NHL is going to find out that the problem is rooted real deep here and how they want to go about this. But I do agree with both of you that it would be easy to make an example that this is not tolerated and that it won't be. And if you want to really make sure that hockey is, for everybody, sure. But you can exclude some people who do things that are just not acceptable. I think you could solve all of this by, when players sign their entry level contracts or stuff, or players coming into the league, real simple. You abide by saying you haven't done anything that you shouldn't do, right? So when you apply for a job, they ask you if you've committed a crime or something, if you've been convicted. And
convicted of a felony, yeah.
Correct. And even if you find out later that you did, it's called perjury. So there are ways that you can do this to set an example and say, hey, we can remove this type of conduct and we can snip it immediately. it's got to be black and white. You can't have much of a gray zone here because that's, there's just too much at that point.
And just to kind of put a bow on the topic here, and the point you just made about, like there are, that if you have committed a felony, you have to if on your job application, have you committed a felony? Yes. They don't ask if you've committed a misdemeanor. There is some slack given here, but there is, being young and a older teenager making stupid decisions, and then there's this. This does not fall into a stupid decision. This is not shooting firecrackers at your buddies because you maybe had a few too many beers or something like that. That's a stupid decision. This is not a stupid decision. So again, if these guys are guilty of what the people are saying, please, NHL, make an example of them. Now, back to the ice here. Miro Heiskanen can return for the Dallas Stars tonight. Even with his return, I think Thomas Harley has shown enough to probably still get some minutes there in Dallas. He played pretty well in his absence.
Yeah, that I'm okay with. Miro Heiskanen brings definitely, when you look at Dallas's blue line, there's not many players you can talk about. There's Miro Heiskanen, and then, kind of look around and see who else is going to provide any type of offense. And that has definitely been the case here. So Thomas Harley is one of the guys I was touting last week in the Fantasy Alarm waiver wire article, because he's just there and he's doing it and he's eating up those minutes. And I think by what he was able to do recently, then you can kind of say, okay, well, we don't have to, you don't have to truck Miro Heiskanen out there for 27, 28 minutes a night. You can say, hey, you can have somebody here split the load with you a little bit and still get a quality result. You also maybe don't want to rush Heiskanen back in right away and put the entire kind of defense on his shoulders, because it's not like it's not Esa Lindell and it's not Ryan Suter at his age. So you need some guys around there to kind of shoulder some of that pressure. And yeah, I'm okay with it.
And he's still playing. He's still running point on the second power play unit. Obviously, Miro's going to take back over his spot, but he's still on a power play unit with Sagan, Duchesne, Wyatt Johnson, and Mason Marchment. So, yeah, maybe that first unit's going to get the bulk of them, about 80 seconds of that power play time at 2 minutes, but they're still going to get some opportunities there. And like you said, if you're going to try and keep Heiskanen good for the playoffs, give Harley some of those minutes now.
Yeah, to Chris's point, Miro Heiskanen was at 25 minutes, Harley at 19. So maybe, I don't know if you swap the minutes, if you kind of give it an even split for both players, let Heiskanen, get his way back onto this team so that he is healthy for that, playoff push and that playoff run.
Next story, that bigger story that came over since the last time we recorded, Patrick Roy taking over as the New York Islanders head coach. And, Lou Lamoriello, we all know the stories. Lou kind of runs his teams like the way the Yankees do. Like, you can't have this kind of facial hair and stuff like that. And heck, even when you have a Hall of Fame goaltender who's arguably not even arguably, top 3 goaltender of all time, even he had to clean up the facial hair a little bit to take the gig. So, Lou not bending in his old ways there. But nonetheless, I think this was a good move for the Isles. Lane Lambert just wasn't getting it done for them anymore. And Patrick Roy is not going to suffer any crap. That is one thing. I think he's a very good fit for that Islanders team. And I think this ends one of two ways. This ends very well, or this ends in a fiery plane crash. Because, we've seen Patrick Roy meltdowns before. We know he is not shy to show emotion.
Well, you look at what Patrick Roy brings to the squad, and we talked about how boring, right, the Islanders are as a team, and he brings the personality that maybe that's not coming out of the players and their play. Maybe we'll start seeing that with Patrick Roy, and he could take on all the media and all that stuff. But man, Teflon Lou, like how long? Like I know he was with the Devils for such a long time. Like how much longer is Lou Lamoriello going to get? He was in Toronto before this, right? In between the Devils, he went to Toronto for a little while. They didn't do anything. He's with the Islanders. Like how many coaches is this guy going to be able to go through?
I think Lou might be at one of he's just like, I don't want to use the word icon, but I mean, he's just been a fixture of NHL front offices forever. He's, say what you want about him. He's respected by the right people in the league, because if he wasn't, he wouldn't still be employed. And he's good enough to get you to the playoffs at this point. He's not good enough to get you all the way, I think, in terms of roster construction. So, plus he's probably a scary guy to fire, I would imagine.
Well, I know too, like with front office, you don't want to keep switching and changing.
Yeah.
You want consistency, but man, the consistency you get with Lou, like you said, it's been the same outside of winning the cups with the Devils. He's kind of struggled with Toronto and here on Long Island, although he did get them to two conference championships. But I don't know. I don't know how many coaches you get to go through. I just I've seen in other sports, so I guess hockey's a little bit different when it comes to that as well.
Hockey, they go through coaches like crazy, but the GMs get a leash it's longer than a mile.
Never ends. I mean, I would get rid of Lou simply for his beard rule. I mean, it's 2024. Like, let's get on. You know what I mean? Like, I bet you he still has a VHS player, and that's where he watches game film. Like, he got somebody to put it on a VHS or a DVD so he can watch it later. That is
He
not
needs
it.
his chapters that he can skip,
Correct. Like, he's going to his local corner store and he's picking up the TV guide because he wants to find out when, whatever 70s show that he's watching is on TV again and what time, so he can highlight it or something. That's what I assume Lou Lamoriello does. That's until proven. I will say this: it was a good idea for him to go out and get Patrick. Well, I think that helps. Two reasons: A, the New York Islanders are giving up the second most shots against per game. And I almost fell off my chair when I was reading it, because at one point they were first because your beloved San Jose Sharks continue to be who they are. But there's one thing that's been consistent here with the New York Islanders, especially when Barry Trotz was in town, this was a good defensive team. And that is not the case. They're not good defensively. They are just like, it's unfortunate because I think Ilya Sorokin's having one of those years. If you took him as the first goalie off the board in fantasy hockey, your return on investment has not been good. It has been Bitcoin and not the good kind. So, it's not working. So, bringing in Patrick Waugh might fix two things. A, Ilya Sorokin's got a pretty good person to talk to if he wants to talk about how to stop the puck. No offense to whoever's the goalie coach there, but Patrick Waugh is the third winningest goalie in NHL history. Maybe he knows something. I also think maybe the second time around for Patrick Waugh might be a little bit different. Maybe we've learned some things, right? Maybe we have become better at it, but he's definitely going to help the goaltending situation. My assumption is he's going to help them defensively. I think the Islanders played yesterday on Wednesday. I think they had 40 shots on goal or something. So they came out buzzing. They came out ready to play. This is a team that's going to get into the Patrick Waugh system, which is, try to play better, try to, dictate your pace, try to go out there and, do something, because you can't just sit back and just allow the opponent to take as many shots as they want and score goals. No team that's at the, that's giving up the most shots per game are having any success this season. So I do think this is a good hiring. He will be at the Bell Center tonight on Thursday, so that should be well for him.
Oh,
but
wow.
as hey, he's going in. And like you said, if all of this burns out, he will return to the Quebec Remparts of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League and, lead them to another title and just recycle that. So he's got something to fall back on if he wants to. But I was shocked that he was willing to shave the beard for Lou Lamoriello and go to the Islanders. I guess he really wanted to coach somewhere.
Well, the thing that I like about the timing of this decision for both Lou and I guess, Patrick Waugh, he assessed the situation and also saw a similar thing here. As you look at the Metropolitan, the Rangers have absolutely been a struggling team here in the new calendar year. Carolina has goaltending issues. They seem to have turned a corner and be playing better, but you still can't trust that entirely yet. Now with Philadelphia, the whole Carter Hart thing, regardless of whether it's true or not, that still hangs over the locker room, that the guy who was, kind of somebody they rallied around and was having a good year. Now he's gone. So, I mean, I know Erson's become the starter, but still, it's, but maybe that has an effect. The Devils haven't been able to do anything. The top three spot is available in this division right now. So if you're the Islanders and your problem is you're giving up way too many shots and you're not the defensive team that everybody, gives you that reputation on based on yesteryear, there's no reason the Islanders can't, right there, they're 51 points. They're 10 points behind the Rangers, same amount of games played. You can make that up over a course of 30 games here.
Lou Lamoriello believes that his team can get there. That's what it tells me. He believes that he may not need a player. He just needs a system change. And I'm not sure, but wasn't the last coach to be hired midseason and then win the Stanley Cup, Mike Sullivan?
That was when the Penguins made that change mid-year.
I'm pretty sure it was mid-year. I don't think St. Louis won that, because St. Louis at one point when they won their cup, they were dead last. and then all of a sudden resurrected. But I think it's Mike Sullivan. So I'm not saying the Islanders are winning the cup, because I mean, I'm pretty sure I'd fall asleep before that. But
yeah,
there's if you're a player in that locker room, your GM believes, he says, hey, I think we're here. This is all we need. We didn't make a player move. Who knows what they do at the deadline? But I mean, he's got the confidence of, all those players know where Lou Lamoriello stands and what he thinks his team can do, and maybe seizing the opportunity that's in front of them.
The thing that concerns me, though, is that their best player is supposed to be their goalie, and their goal differential is -21. They're third worst in the Metropolitan Division, fourth worst in the conference. And that's a concern to me. If you're going to make this run, and they have an opportunity to jump over the Devils for sure, but if these guys are going to make this run and try to make the playoffs, they need better goaltending from Sorokin, and even Varlamov has been playing better than him, although in half the
he's
time
coming back, yeah.
he's has a better save percentage than Sorokin, and Sorokin was going to be taken as the top goalie in fantasy hockey, and like you said, Chris, he's not giving you what you're supposed to be getting. He's not paying off, that's for sure.
I think when you look at the Metro, you even with the Rangers struggling, you say, okay, they're going to get one of those 3 spots. The Hurricanes have probably weathered the storm well, so they're probably going to get one of those 3 spots. But right now, that 3rd spot, you can make an argument for anybody but Columbus probably at this point to maybe snag it. So
yeah, they have the bet. They have. I mean, I'll give Igor what he's earned, but Ilya Sorokin is good, so they probably have the 2nd best goalie in that conference, and in that division. Sorry, so other teams are struggling with goaltending, because all you got to do is fix the guy who stops the puck a little bit, maybe play a little bit of team defense, because I hear that works. I don't know. Again, the guy behind the bench, I think, knows at least can help somebody play better. I like it.
And for a team like the Islanders, where you're not a team that's going to go out and score a ton of goals, you're not built that way. You just shore up the things we talked about, and all of a sudden, things are very good again.
Those 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 snooze fests of clogging the neutral zone and just curing insomnia immediately. That's what they're looking to do.
Adam, you said the Blue Jackets were like your team. I might be adding the Capitals to that. I mean,
they're getting close to that status. Yeah.
If you're not going to have the OG Ovechkin, I mean, what are we doing here? I can't see them making some type of run. Even their goal differential -30. Penguins, surprisingly, they're second to last. They're +12. So I feel like they have a better chance than the Capitals do. But I would throw the Capitals in with the Blue Jackets. I think that they're done as well.
The Penguins also second least amount of games played in the conference. So that's not by much, but still a couple of games in hand, a couple of points, and all of a sudden there are a couple of spots further up in the standings. So yeah. I'm ready to throw Washington on that list too. But yeah, that 3rd spot is wide open. Philly, Jersey, Islanders, or even the Penguins, who we're still waiting for at this point. So now we're talking a lot about the East. What if the NHL expanded out to the West into Salt Lake City? The owners of the Utah Jazz said on Wednesday that they have the immediate ability to bring an NHL team to Utah and requested the initiation of an expansion process. And the NHL, who usually when teams throw out like, hey, we want to get a team, usually league commissioners will say something nice about the city, but say there's a due process we have to go through, blah, 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 blah. That's not what the NHL said. The NHL basically was like, yep, that sounds good, and we're going to have further discussions on that. So this is starting to look more like a matter of if and not more a matter of when and not if. I mean, sometimes you watch a TV show or a movie and you're like, oh, that couple's totally they're gonna get together. Yeah, like the NHL and Salt Lake City have all those vibes right now.
Well, what is it with the owners of the Utah Jazz? Is it that they did like a survey? Hey, would you be interested in seeing hockey here? Is it a fan thing? Is it more of, oh, you know what? Now we can make more money and try this out and try to make more money. I don't know. I just don't see it in Utah. And all they have is the Jazz, right? I don't think they have any.
They have the Jazz. They have a AAA baseball team. They look like they're going to be the temporary home for the Oakland Athletics between them leaving Oakland and their Las Vegas stadium being ready. So they might get a little taste of having a second major league team there. You know, I mean, the NFL's not going there. I mean, baseball, they talk expansion too. Salt Lake City's a name yet gets thrown out there as well. So, I mean, that's another reason why maybe they're going to be excited about the Oakland A's going there, because it's a trial run for them in that regard.
Well, I was hoping that baseball would move to Nashville. There's always been a push for that, as well as the Nashville Predators doing hockey down there, and that hockey town, they love it out there. But I've always been the guy that wants to see hockey back in Quebec City. You have here that on the second Toronto team. No, thank you.
Those are the three teams. Those are the three locations that people will always jump to. Though they should have a team before
I'd rather
City
Houston.
X.
You had pushed for Houston for a while. I would rather Houston than Salt Lake City. If I'm not going to be able to get Quebec City, give me Houston then.
Well, that's the funny thing is, like, Houston kind of had a similar thing happen a couple of years ago, because the previous owner of the Rockets had no interest in that. He didn't want to share a building with an NHL team. He's like, nope. New ownership comes in for the Rockets. I forget how many years ago. And then at some point he was like, yeah, I would absolutely entertain the idea of bringing a hockey team here and sharing a building. I mean, Houston is a massive market. I believe it's the fourth or fifth biggest media market in the country, the United States. So, I mean, to not have an NHL team in that market, I mean, yeah, you got Dallas right down the road, but Texas is a big state. I think Houston could support a second team.
Well, look at how, right, Texas, America's team, Dallas Cowboys, and then they add Houston, and they have a good fan base out there in Houston. So, it can be done. Like the Dallas Stars are not going to be the only team in town if they bring, Houston in there. I think it could work in
Houston.
Two
football teams, you support 2 baseball teams, you support 3 basketball teams.
Yep.
A couple things here. Gary Bettman hates Canada. He
Correct.
hates polar bears. He hates poutine.
Maple.
He hates, maple syrup. He hates free healthcare. Gary hates Canada. That's what it's proven to me, because Salt Lake City is like, hey, we got a place if they want to play. And I'm like, really? They also do in Quebec City, which, by the way, is where the Quebec Remparts were playing, because they built this beautiful arena where you can house a full NHL team. The NHL is like, no. So I will say that there's a couple of things here that I'm sure the NHL likes. It's a central team, and we know that they could probably use a team in the central a little bit to kind of, free up stuff that they want to do. So from a logistics of where that city is, they'd be quite happy about that. 2, expansion money. We know that owners are addicted to money. Adding another team is good for the NHL players. There's more jobs, there's more money, there's more TV rights, there's all those things. And I will say that they've had success. Like, I wasn't on board with Vegas, and look, like, what a wonderful story that has been. Vegas has been competitive right out of the gate. Seattle is a great market for sports in general. It doesn't matter what sport. I'm not surprised to see hockey do well in Seattle.
And they were also starved for an arena team, because you have baseball, football, and the Sounders are big, but they didn't have an arena. You don't have an arena team in the rainiest city in the damn country. Now you do.
It's gone well, right? Like, Seattle is a decent hockey team. Like, nobody will ever live up to what Vegas did, because that is just so, like, it's so hard to do that. Expansion teams are supposed to be terrible. So
Seattle exceeded that.
And Seattle exceeded that. Correct. I mean, they beat Colorado in the playoffs. Good for them. You know what I mean? Like, so there's nice stuff here. I mean, I understand what Gary wants to do here. And I mean, we don't need to keep putting NHL teams in places that just can't produce ice. Like, I love that, that.
I mean, they held the Winter Olympics there in 2002. So,
but I mean, there is one place that hockey needs to be, and it's obviously in Quebec, and that is just that's the easiest way to do it. And every other excuse as to why you can't is a question of just Gary hating Canada. Canada will not get another team. I don't know how they got Winnipeg. I don't know. Like, he must have had an off day. It was just like, you know what? Send it. That's it. Well, he's like, send it in.
Yeah, he must have, like, you know what it must have been? He must have been, like, on vacation. He must have, like, half read the email, thought he saw something else, was like, yeah, sure.
Maybe he heard Wyoming, and he's like, yeah, we'll send a team to Wyoming. Why not? And then they said, no, Gary, sorry, it's Winnipeg, and that's in Canada. He was like, well, I already pressed it, accepted, right?
No, if we're going to talk market sizes, sorry, Houston, obviously far and away the biggest one right now, according to Google in the 2021 census, 2.3 million. Quebec population as of 2017, 540,000. Salt Lake City, as of the same time frame, 200,000. So I don't want to hear it's about population base, because frankly, now that I know that Salt Lake City's 200,000, I live in Santa Rosa, California, with a population of 170,000. Gary, if you're going to consider a city of 200,000, can you do me a favor and put a team closer than San Jose? Come to Santa Rosa. If you're considering, there's a lot of money in this town. Okay, there's some winery.
You already have the Sharks that can't perform and the Barracuda. Okay, so
that's like an hour 40 drive for me. I'm just saying. If you're going to consider,
I think Gary is worried because like of what Ottawa is, right? But Ottawa has its own problems. The arena is nowhere near Ottawa. Actually, it is.
They're fixing that.
It's still the Ottawa Senators. So that to me is the one part. But like Quebec City is a wonderful place. There are people who want to go. It's very touristy. There's stuff that you can do, and there is a fan base that exists. They are basically the Winnipeg Jets, but they speak French, and their team is called the Nordiques. So you can do this. You just have to say yes. And everything that comes out of Bill Daley's mouth and Gary Bettman is just two men that just don't like Canada. I would stop them at the border, arrest them, put them in Canadian jail, and force them. You know what? They don't even get the good maple syrup. They get whatever that stuff is that you guys have. That stuff. Sugar and water. That's all they get. They get nothing from the Cabana Suc. Nothing.
Wow. We're talking embargo here if we don't get a team. Now, what if... Because, all right, so right now the league's at 32 teams. Nice round number, 4 divisions of 8 teams. Playoffs, nice and easy, all that. If they go to 84 game schedule, then the scheduling becomes nice and easy, round number, everybody's figured out. You're not going to go to 33 teams. So if you're going to expand, you're going to expand. If you're going to expand, like, you knew Vegas came in and you kind of knew Seattle was going to be a couple of years behind. If you're going to expand, it's probably going to be in a pair. Do you take a Salt Lake City to get a Quebec City? Like, you have to take one to get the other. Like, maybe that's how it has to work there. Maybe that's how Quebec gets in the door. Like, fine, we wouldn't go to you alone, but if you're going to come in with, a Western city, we'll say a Houston or a Salt Lake City, I mean, even Portland should get consideration at that point too, because they're a rabid. They're all over the Trailblazers, and that's the only. They got them and the Timbers, the soccer team, and then both fan bases are great.
I would do whatever it takes to get Quebec City back their team.
Oh, man.
Like, whatever it takes to get that. I don't know what he sees though. Like, what is it that he would see in Salt Lake City that'd be like, you know what? That's a moneymaker right there.
It's money.
You
it's
think
just
so?
Expansion, of course. I don't know why we're talking expansion when the Arizona Coyotes don't have a home. That's a whole other tangent we're not going on.
Yeah,
but I think before we expand, we need to figure out where the Coyotes are going to be because they're playing at a college rink today, Gary. Figure it out.
Every time we hear like, oh, they've got like land that's hopeful. Like, oh, this arena's, if they get this site, it'll help for attendance. Well, if, like, it hasn't happened. Move the Coyotes to Salt Lake City. And the other thing about,
I know too many cities in the state of Arizona for somebody who lives way too far from Arizona. Like, I know cities that I should not know, right? Because like somebody's like, hey, name how many cities in Arizona. I'll be like, oh yeah, well, you got Phoenix, and then you got, Glendale, then you got Tempe, and then you got wherever else the Arizona Coyotes are thinking about going. They used to be the Phoenix Coyotes once upon a time. And they're like, well, no, it's just for the whole state. And the whole state's like, we don't even know what this is. What is this?
And the other thing about Quebec City too is Vegas has become a destination hockey town. There's a few cities that are like that, or you want to go see them. Like, I want to go see the Rangers play Chicago once because it's like its original 6. It's Chicago. It's United Center. Maybe not so much for the West Coast because it's a long flight, but for all of those cities in the Northeast, you don't think you would get Sabres, Leafs, Bruins, Canadians, Red Wings, Rangers, like Devils, Islanders fans all going up to Quebec to see their team? I mean, if you're going to consider a city that's got less than half of what Quebec City has, Quebec built that new arena that they opened, like you said, 10 years ago. Metallica opened the building. Like, come on now. Like, what are we doing?
Heck, I want to go to Quebec to see them play.
I a good friend of mine from my working days back at Sirius, Mike Corbett, he used to go up there all the time. He loves it. He thinks it's a beautiful city. He's like, it's cold, but it's beautiful.
It's not even that far from Montreal. It's basically like driving from one side, of Manhattan to the other. It's like 2.5 hours. You can get there. You can have you can even drive back afterwards if you want, or you can stay, kind of like Ottawa. So it's not. I'm just saying the theory here is Gary hates Canada, and that's the only thing I accept.
Understood. Well, until we get a Quebec team, Chris will not be convinced otherwise.
That's it.
We hope they. Well, I'd like to. I don't know if I want the NHL to expand, just because, like, I feel like One of the arguments that used to be done against expansion, and this was more in the baseball world, was, oh, it waters down the teams, it waters down the product. The bottom guy on this team doesn't belong. Blah, 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 blah. I don't think that's really the case anymore because the talent pool just gets deeper and deeper. But at some point, you can have too many teams. So I think you got to figure out what that number is. You just went from 30 to 32 over the last 6 years. So, obviously expansion's a process. They can announce a team tomorrow and it ain't happening for about 3-4 years. So, I just think you can have too much of a good thing at some point. So I'd be careful. You go to Quebec City, go to Houston, and maybe chill after that. That's all.
If they're worried about a watered down product, I just want you to know that the San Jose Sharks and the Chicago Blackhawks play each other sometimes. So,
oh, I know. I was there on Tuesday night and watched the Rangers blow the third 2-goal lead early in the third period to them, and then to lose in overtime. So yes, yeah, it's still a fun vibe. Still good fans there. It's still a good building for as old as it is by NHL standards. It's still a pretty good building. Good food. Let's go to Fantasy Focus now. We got a couple of guys here. All these guys were in Chris's waiver article here. But for the third week in a row, we're talking about an Avalanche forward in here. Let's start off with Logan O'Connor. Breakout month, 11 points, 6 goals, 5 assists in 10 games since the start of January. Arturi Lehkonen is back, but he plays on the left side. That really shouldn't affect him. They started him in the third line last night. I think that's just to ease him back in. And he'll bump Miles Wood from that second left wing spot. That's got to make Logan O'Connor even more enticing.
Yeah, I think he's in a good spot here. First of all, the Colorado Avalanche still have one line. They play one line. Logan O'Connor plays on the second line. No, sorry, he was not seeing top player play units, but he has done. He's done what he's needed to do. And if you're in a league where you're struggling to score goals, right? Fantasy hockey is about goals and points and stuff. It's not plus minus and face-off wins. You need guys who can find a way to collect points, and that's exactly what he does. So you can treat this as how most of us treated the Edmonton Oilers of last year. Like it was McDavid, Draisaitl, insert body here. Whoever that body is, you can take a run at him and say, hey, if it works, great. If it doesn't, ship him off. It doesn't matter. But playing with quality players, I mean, I'm in.
And you said when Lehkonen coming back is going to bump Miles Wood down, so it'd be Lehkonen, Colton, and O'Connor.
Yeah, which I mean, in most cases, that's not a great second line, but for Colorado, I guess that's all you need.
Yeah, and I feel like Lehkonen will be a better teammate than Miles Wood on that line for O'Connor to score more points.
Lehkonen is he's good defensive forward that can chip in offensively. He's a penalty kill guy, but he's showed some offensive touch over the last season and a half, we'll say, before he got injured. So, and they're going to listen, like you said, Colorado's riding that line, and that's quite the line to run. Apparently, Nate McKinnon's getting bras thrown at him on the ice like he's a rock star in the 80s. Good for him. I do know from being married that bras are expensive. So I don't know if I would be like throwing a new one out there. Maybe like an old one that's on its way out. But
man, that man is I want to be him right now. Nathan McKinnon is just I absolutely cried yesterday because I forgot to set my lineup in a league where McKinnon is in it and he was on the bench. And when I woke up this morning, I was like, cool.
I made the decision of playing Charlie Lindgren over Georgiev because Lindgren's looked a lot better lately than Georgiev had. That did not look good for me last night.
Didn't look good, but no, man. I mean, he is like McKinnon is hot, man. He is good. I think what is it? Cale Makar is like the most goals by a defenseman in Colorado history. Like this team is just a rock star team. Like they're fun to watch. That's for sure. They can't get any goaltending, but I mean, when Nathan McKinnon takes off, it feels like one of those like rear wheel drive cars where it might take a minute, but when he's in full stride, like good luck. You're not stopping him. You're not like he's obviously not as quick as McDavid, but I mean that's a pretty close number two, if I don't say so.
Let's say McDavid, doesn't go on fire the rest of the year. He plays at a good pace, scores at a good pace, but not an MVP pace. Kucherov or McKinnon for the Hart?
Nah, it's McKinnon.
Okay. Even if Tampa gets in, I mean, on the strength of Kucherov?
Even if he gets in, I think that McKinnon is the straw that stirs the drink there. I think here's how I say it. If you remove him, can that team still have success? And I think we've seen that, Tampa Bay, yes, in previous years have been able to do that. I don't know if they would be able. Like Kucherov is elite. So he's really good at what he does, but McKinnon is really like I said, it starts and ends with him. And he's taking this team that has no depth up front. Their defense is still good. A goalie who's going to the All-Star games with a popularity contest, and they're going out there and they're getting things done. He's playing a ton of minutes, and it doesn't look like it's slowing him down one bit. So that's the man for me.
McKinnon has about 20 more shots on goal than Kucherov. You got 33 to 19 hits, 43 to 19 blocks. I mean, he is all worldly, McKinnon right now.
If you're looking at the odds, McDavid's still the odds-on favorite at plus 290 at BetMGM. Kucherov plus 340, McKinnon plus 380. So, and then the next guy on the list is Pastrnak plus 700, and Jack Hughes at plus 800 as of Tuesday. So, I mean, they're basically saying it's a three-man race for MVP, and it's really a one-man race. And that's if McDavid leaves the door open, then it becomes a two-door race. So, see what happens there. Another guy we want to talked about one center. Let's talk about Sean Monahan in Montreal. And hey, listen, his role hasn't changed in Montreal. We're not like saying like, oh, he's going to start getting more points, but he is going to be somebody that is very coveted at the deadline because everybody wants center depth. And, somebody's going to overpay for him. Montreal's going to get a nice haul for him, I think, just because there's not a ton of centers, I think, available. He's had 7 assists during his 4-game point streak, 31 points, 11 goals, 20 assists over 46 games. He's wherever he goes, he's going to end up being like a third-line center probably. Where do we see him going? Who needs that center depth right now?
Any of the competing teams there. Edmonton needs a centerman, right? I mean,
can they go get a Monahan?
I mean, look, at that point, they figure out the logistics. Somebody smarter than me will figure out how that works. But all those competing teams that need a third line center who can play second, like in Montreal, it's obviously, there's a lack of center depth and he plays the power play and stuff. But Montreal is a better team when he is in the lineup. And I don't think that's an accident. Like there's a lot of things that he can do. He's good at what he does. He understands his role. He's healed from all his, his hip surgeries and everything. He's not the quickest guy on the ice, but it doesn't need to be. But he makes the guys that he plays with around. He can play against the top, the opposing team's top best players. So, teams like Colorado that probably need, again, another centerman that would probably help there. I mean, maybe, a team like Vancouver could probably use a team as well. That probably goes there. Toronto has no money, so they can't do anything anymore. We've cut them off. We've cut their credit card. There's nothing left for them. But any of those teams that are, looking to make a push, they can add it. Montreal took a first-round pick. They got a first-round pick to take Monahan, and they could probably get a first-round pick for trading him. So this has been a slam dunk. No matter what happens to Sean Monahan. I understand he was here for a good time, maybe not a long time, but I mean, he has been very serviceable and, for the commitment.
He was there for a good time, but a lot of other people had a good time while he was there too. It wasn't just about he's doing. Listen, he's been one of the more watchable players for the Canadians this year,
and he wanted to decide here the offseason. He said, "Hey, man, I'd like to be here, finish what I, kind of what I started." Took a really team friendly deal as well. I think that helps as well in trying to move him. I can't see him being here past the trade deadline. I can't. Not at his team friendly deal. Not at what he can bring to a team that needs help. We know how much NHL GMs love the keywords on the bingo cards. So like responsible in their own zone. Good with the puck, 200-foot player, all those bingo things that you want. He maybe doesn't have the grit and the sandpaper, but all those keywords, he has some of them. So he's going to end up somewhere for too much. And I'm in.
I think as a third line center, you can get away all those buzzwords you just phrases. You can get away with not having one of those aspects as a third line center, and you're still okay. Vancouver, I think, was a good one you mentioned. 2 other ones I'm looking at, the Rangers, because you got Brodzinski and Gaudreau. Now, Gaudreau is fine as a fourth-line center, but maybe you want to upgrade there, but they may have bigger – they may want to look more at the blue line. But that's one I would look at. Florida Panthers are another one I would look at for Monahan. That would be a real good one. Like, yeah, Sam Bennett's there, but, put him on that third line instead of Lundell or move Lundell over. I think that's another one, too, you got to look at.
I mean, if the Devils
they would
Tampa Bay, right? We didn't even talk about Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay can always use something down the middle. It seems like a team that could get into it, or maybe one of those like bubble teams that think that they can get in, right? So like we talked about Seattle. Like if Seattle believes that they're a good team, then maybe they go out and they do something. They have money to spend.
I
The
mean,
Arizona Coyotes, if they believe that they can do something.
I mean, what about, the Devils right now? Jack Hughes, he's been hurt. Once he comes back in the lineup, great. You got him and Heishier. There's Dawson Mercer, Eric Howell, Chris Tierney, but you don't have Michael McLeod for aforementioned reasons, and he ain't coming back. And that was a guy, listen, he was doing well, and Hughes is not doing well, but he was playing admirably in Hughes' absence in that spot. And when he's your fourth line center, he does everything you want that fourth line center to do. And now you lose that kind of shutdown guy. So, maybe, like you said, maybe Monahan helps with the depth of the Devils.
Yeah, McLeod it kind of really turned it on since the playoffs series against the Rangers. And, I was on the outs with him before that, and seeing the way he kind of turned it around and kind of was becoming a comparable player was nice. But the Devils also need a goalie. They may need a defenseman. So, it's going to be hard to see where they go at the trade deadline, if they do anything, or if they just wait for these guys to come back. I really don't know what the direction is come trade deadline for this team.
Are we sure the Devils need a goalie yet? Are we sure?
I think we've got that point where
I think we've crossed that one. We're good. Okay, just
probably
sure.
worth kicking the tires there. Now,
take a look.
Speaking of goalies, let's talk about one of my favorite guys to say, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen from the Sabres, who has kind of taken over that crease. What's annoying about Devon Levi is one of the things we said in our season preview show when we talked awards futures was if Bedard gets injured, that leaves the door open for Devon Levi. He just never had a hope, and he had the opportunity to take the Calder, and it never got off the ground. So his loss, UPL's gain here. So he's been playing, pretty good. He's got started the last 7 games, 5-2, 129 goals against, 948 save percentage, and 2 shutouts in that span. 11 wins and 3 shutouts and 261 GAA and 21 starts this season, 24 games. Buffalo got Tage Thompson back. Is this a guy that listen? He's not a guy that's going to maybe help you with a ton of wins, but is this a guy that maybe you go out and add because goaltending is so reliable? Goaltending is so hard to find. At least this guy is probably going to get 4 out of 5 the rest of the way.
I mean, look, the Devon Levi shift has gone off, so I'm still part of the membership club. But
same here.
It was really. I know. I feel like it was one of those NFT kind of things. I got sucked into it, and it didn't work out this year for him. But it is what it is. But like you said, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen here has taken off. He's taken that job. He's done well. And I think Buffalo just run him out there until he says I can't, because a lot of us thought that the Buffalo Sabres could be a playoff team here after how close they came with Craig Anderson in goal, and they have just regressed. They have not taken the step forward that you think they are. They're way out of it here a little bit in the Atlantic Division. So I don't they'd have to hurdle a couple of teams here. They're sitting at what, as of today, 46 points. They're 7 points behind Detroit, who's 5th. So they got some work to do here, but you got to start winning games. And those games against Atlantic Division teams are going to be key because they're 4-point games. So, I mean, just keep playing him until what? What's the worst that can happen? He stumbles, loses a bunch of games in a row, and then you can, you're out of a playoff run, and you can run Devon Levi out there and let him get the starts and let him get the experience and build again for next year. And we can, on the chart, we can go back to believing in the Sabres and Devon Levi, and then, maybe we go back to feeling pain and suffering,
which we're accustomed to.
I mean, look, I feel on the, for Toronto Maple Leaf fan, Dallas Cowboy fans, it's the same thing. The cycle's the same. So I feel Buffalo Sabres are what they are. They are supposed to be better. They were not. I've not changed my opinion on that city. It's just drive through it. There's no point. But this team should be a whole lot better than they are. And they're not. It's unfortunate.
I went to Buffalo once to go see the Niagara Falls. We went to the Canadian side. Went to a Sabres game. Went to Marcel Dion's Blue Line Cafe just over the border. Buffalo's a good. For a weekend, it's nice. You don't need to stay there longer than a night or two. But catch a Sabres game. Go to Niagara Falls. Some nice stuff up there. No, let's.
That's as much as we can say about Buffalo. There you go. That's it. That's all we got. If you're waiting for something else, Buffalo residents of Buffalo. Sorry.
The Bills will play into mid-January every year. They won't play much deeper than that, but they'll get into mid-January every year. So there's that. They're getting a new stadium. Maybe they'll put a roof on it. Hopefully they put a roof on it. But one team we haven't talked about too much yet, and this is a team that's just flying high here, from black sheep to black gold here. The Edmonton Oilers couldn't have got off to a worse start. Coaching change, bring Kurt Knobloch in, and all of a sudden here we are talking about a team that is going for 15 in a row tonight versus Chicago. And then they can make it 16 if they get that W tonight, heading into the All-Star break with one more game against Nashville there. So I think the question that's burning on both Anthony and my mind is, Chris, have you changed your perspective on this Oilers team now that we're at the end of January, the winning streak's still going? They've moved ahead of the Kings in the standings. They're not that, they're nipping at the heels of second place here. Vancouver's kind of running away with it, but Vegas isn't that far in front of them. How do we feel about the Oilers?
No, they look, I mean, I'll be the first to say it. They have definitely impressed, and they have definitely corrected a lot of things. It's crazy what good goaltending will do to a hockey team, right? A little bit of stability, and all of a sudden it's like every problem has been fixed, right? But to me, there's a couple of points here. Stuart Skinner has been elite, and he's not giving up goals. And I think that the Oilers are playing a little bit better defensively. So I think the structure correction there is good. Like, was Jay Woodcroft really that bad? No. I think maybe the coaching changes needed. A structure is a little bit different, because we're so used to watching the Edmonton Oilers go out there and just smack their opponents, right? Like they win 7-5.
And they haven't been doing that on this winning streak.
They haven't. They've had a lot of close games where you're talking 2-1. They like, here's the thing: scoring 4 goals in the NHL, really good, by the way. Like, if you're a team averaging 4 goals per game, like you're good. You're elite, actually. So they go out there, they get their customary 3-4 goals, which is all they need, because their goalie's not giving up any goals. So they're not. It's not like you have to go out there and continue to score goals and be like, oh, I got to score 5 because maybe our goalie's going to give up 6. Or, that you don't have that confidence in that guy in goal. So you got to push the pace and really keep going. They're not doing that. They're not going out there and just smacking their opponents here. They've been very consistent. I think, like, I don't know, 4 of their last 5, probably, like, they've scored 4 goals, and that's it. And then the Stuart Skinner just give anything else up. And there you go. Like, hockey's not a hard sport. Just score more than your opponent. But if you play well defensively,
it's that easier.
It makes that a lot easier. So you can still win games when you only score maybe 2 or 3 goals if you're not giving up any. So kudos to Stuart Skinner. This was a situation that could have really ended poorly for him, or, like, they could have gone out to get somebody out. Like, Calvin Pickard is there. I don't think he's played anything that's meaningful. I mean, we don't care about Jack Campbell anymore, and why would we? So he's gone out there. He's grabbed it. We'll see if he is true or if he's a fraud. We'll find out in a couple of weeks, right? At some point, the Oilers are going to lose a game. So, maybe they don't go on like an 8-game losing streak, kind of bounce up, but they've made up all that ground that they kind of gave up at the beginning. And I think that's the impressive part. The run has been nice, but all that ground that they lost to start the year, like, it's mute now. Like, it's a fair trade, and they have put themselves in a position to now compete to, be part of their division, so they don't have to be a wild card team and get smacked by somebody else. But I feel much better about them today. Yes. If you ask me if I think they're a playoff team, I think that they are.
We talked about, teams that get that jump start and have enough equity, like the Rangers, to, go through some losing streaks. And on the opposite side, you have the Oilers doing the total opposite: rough start, coming back the way they have with this winning streak. And you just only hope that this isn't the run where, that this is it for them. Like, they go on a run and then they, go on a streak that maybe, they lose some here, some there, and it kind of knocks them out, and they've expensed all their wins here now. But it's great that they've been able to turn it around, that they've been able to get into the position that they are. And in 33 games played for Skinner, he's just taken off, right? 22-9, 908 save percentage. He's been just what they needed, and who knew that he would turn it around just like that? But it's good for them. It's good for this entire Oilers team, and they're off and running right now, and it's good to see after what was a really awful start.
And it's not just McDavid and Draisaitl like getting 4 or 5 points every night. Like, Zach Hyman's been really, really good as well. Like, the supporting cast has been better, and it's the same guys there, but the supporting cast is helping out a little bit. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, he's not on a 100-point pace, but he's still there. You got Evan Bouchard. Darnell Nurse looks serviceable. It looks like he's earning maybe 3/4 of his paycheck. So that's pretty good. So there's a lot of things that are going well here. And if the Oilers continue, then they should be a playoff team.
The defense looks kind of like, when they acquired Matthias Ekholm, we expect, obviously he's not going to make it. It's not going to be like a light switch, but you did expect an improvement, especially after he had the full off season with the team. And it's finally starting to show that they are a defensive team. The other thing here, they Freaky Friday'd with the Islanders, but both blue and orange. The Islanders used to be a team you would bet the under religiously, and the Oilers the over religiously. They have flipped that over the past month. The Islanders can't, like you said, up until the Patrick Roy coaching change, they were giving up a ton of shots. A lot of their games are going over, and the Edmonton's going under. So might be a Freaky Friday thing here. And with Stu Skinner, you talked about like his improved play. That's just a lesson in patience. This is a guy that finished second in the Calder Trophy voting last year behind Matty Beniers. Goaltenders take time. I know things got off to a rough start. They gave Jack Campbell one more look and realized, okay, he's done. Maybe do they go out and acquire a better backup than Pickard, or is it just ride or die with Stu Skinner? Looks like it's ride or die with Stu Skinner at this point, and I think we're okay with that if we're Oilers fans.
I mean,
I think they could still use a backup though, specifically Jake Allen. That would probably be that would probably be a good solution. A guy who knows his role at that point, kind of what it is. This three-headed monster in Montreal is just like it's gone on for too long. So, I would want the security of it. I don't know if they can make the cap work for Jack Campbell, but I feel like Calvin Pickard is not it. And you want somebody. I understand that they've done well with Stuart Skinner. You don't want to burn this kid, heading into the playoffs. You want to be able to say, hey man, at some point we can give you some time off, take your feet off, put them up, maybe, sit in the press box, have a hot dog or something. You know what I mean? Like take the full night off kind of thing. And let your body, your mind, and everything rest. So I still think that Edmonton should go out and look for a backup goalie to kind of solidify that.
Pickard's only played in 7 games. Campbell only in 5. The rest have all been Skinner. This three-headed monster in hockey doesn't seem to be really a monster at all for these teams.
It's like that dragon meme. They're all like the stupid dragon.
I can't imagine being a goalie and like one game you're like playing, then the next one you're in the press box and stuff, just sitting, and then like there's only 2 nets in hockey, so I can't imagine it being a great feeling. And there are teams that have these, like a tandem in goal. Like for goalies, I think it's like a new modern thing where we're all like kind of like, okay, like teams can get away with it, and we've seen it work, and we've seen teams had success. Like before, it was like one guy plays 70 games, the other one plays because the other
12.
one is, the other one went out drinking, and he's like, hey, maybe I'll take a day off today. And we're like, all right, well, whoever was backing up Marty Brodeur can go in. But now, like the two, like the 1A and the 1B seems to be a thing that some teams want to get behind, and it's proven to be successful and even win you a cup. But the three-headed one clearly is not one that should stick around very long.
I like the name Jake Allen you said, because for a team like Edmonton, we're like, all right, it's clear Skinner's going to be the guy that's going to take them through the playoffs, however far they're going to go. You want a backup that, like, okay, God forbid Skinner gets hurt, that like, all right, okay, Skinner's hurt, but we got Jake Allen, and we know Jake Allen can handle workload. And this is not trying to be disrespectful to Calvin Pickard. I don't get that from him, and I don't know if the team has that same vibe with him, whereas like, oh, Skinner's going to be out for a month. All right, well, we got Pickard versus like a Jake Allen, which he's not a starting goalie, but he's a good backup to have and a decent insurance policy.
He's a backup, and at this point for me, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like it's up to him what he wants to do. I'd kind of just be management, be like, hey man, if you want to be here, like be here. But if you want to go out and maybe chase another cup, just have a chance to play more regularly, then like we'll accommodate you and make sure. And you're not looking for. I don't think you're looking for a crazy return. I will say that I think that the return right now for some of those goalies is not high enough, which is why I think some teams have held on to goalies, because I just think every team's trying to lowball in here. And
the closer you get to the deadline, the more.
I think when you start to get to the deadline, you're going to start to see some teams are going to start to really want to pay if they believe that they can, run with this. So I don't think that the price has been right, and good on the GMs who have those goalies to kind of identify the market and say, hey, we're going to sit tight here. But it would shock me if Jake Allen was part of this team after the trade deadline. Again, assuming if he wants to be here, then sit here. You know what I mean? Cool.
So one last thing before we move on from the Oilers, we haven't even talked about Corey Perry, who's skating with the team and is going to join the lineup, soon. And he did not have relations with Connor Bedard's mom. I should have said that in a Bill Clinton voice. Nonetheless, that's exactly what a team like Edmonton needs. Like, okay, like now you're thinking about taking a run at somebody like McDavid or Draisaitl? No, you're not. Corey Perry is going to be there. And I think for a team whose biggest issue is that they can't get deep in the playoffs, you've now got a Stanley Cup champion and a guy who's gone deep in the playoffs multiple times throughout his lengthy career. So, I mean, that is a good addition for them. And I think that just adds to the argument that Edmonton could, I don't want to say that they can win the Pacific. I think that might be a little bit too far out. And there's some of the odds on the bottom there scrolling across the screen, but because that's too far out. But I mean, they're the second best odds to win the West, the second best odds out of any team to win the Stanley Cup out of the West. So league's clearly high on them right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that you can add. He's played the power play before too, so he's like a guy who can he's a Swiss Army knife when he's on the ice. I'm assuming the bar scene in Edmonton is not great, so maybe that helps him out. It's also really cold there, so maybe as well that maybe helps him out. But also the type of team that you're going to, like Chicago, like the mission was different than where he is now. You know what I mean? Like here, we're here to kind of like win.
We're here to win.
Whereas in Chicago, you were just like, hey, you're just here to like help out the others kind of thing. So this
play 18 minutes a night.
Correct. And if you do what you need to do as well, maybe you can have a shift with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and that certainly can't hurt anybody's value. So if Corey Perry's looking to get a contract past this season again, he's in the right spot to do it. He's around some players who can definitely have some skill. And maybe he's got something to talk about with Evander Kane. Who knows?
Yeah. All right, so there we go. We talk a little black sheep to black gold there with the Edmonton Oilers, of course, as we always wrap up here with sweater weather, our final segment here. Today, we're going to go Buffalo Sabres edition. We're going to settle it once and for all. And it's really about the look of the franchise, because you have the iconic look here from, the French Connection days in the 70s all the way up to 96, and then they went back to that in 2020. I know there was an error on the left when they went with more of a navy blue versus that more royalish blue. We'll lump those together. And then on the right, you got, the back half of the Dominic Hasek era, the 96 to 2006 there with what they call the goat head one. And, just to acknowledge it, if you look on the lower right-hand corner, there was the other main Sabres logo in the 2000s, the Chris Drury era, we'll call it, Danny Briere. I was never a big fan of that one. So we're going to go between these two here, the goat's head or the classic Sabre with the sword look. Which one are you spending your money on, boys?
I'm going to say that I'm going to be spending my money on both, but if I only have to choose one, I always remember that just the head with Dominic Hasek at the end of that little 96 2000 run. That's always the one. That's the Stanley Cup run that they went on too, if I am correct. Yes. Yeah, so I kind of like the black one. I really do.
Yeah, I'm in as well. That one is superior, by far the best one. That is the one. Right, City of Buffalo, not that interesting, but that jersey though, like it is up there for me, like easily a top 5 jersey. I think that should be their permanent jersey. They look better. I prefer the dark color, right? That one in the corner there, whatever that intern put together, that one should be like, I hope that person was fired. Right. It's not that the other one is bad that they're rocking, right? The navy blue's fine. It's good. It's nice. Like Ann said, they're both, good, but man, that goat head is just like it's it. Like even when they wear it now, every once in a while, you just look at it and you're just like, it hits different. You just feel better wearing that one.
I'm going to throw out an answer that neither one of you are throwing out yet, and it's not picking the jersey on the left. I like the logo. I like the goat's head logo on the right better, but there's so much red and white and black in hockey that like I don't need those colors. There's not a ton of blue and yellow. So I have seen, a reverse retro or whatever where they took the goat's head logo, but they put the blue and yellow colors as the color scheme.
Ooh.
You do that, now I'm in. That's the ideal solution there.
I am not a fan of the bottom half being like that. I don't know, like where you have the stripes jersey? That way. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Like it's not going to deter me from not picking it, but I don't know. I've never been a fan of the jerseys looking like that. I don't know. Maybe because I like the classic with the stripes the way they are, but I've never been a fan of these jerseys like that. But You know, I mean, I'm still taking it.
So looking up stuff before the show, apparently that like the way those stripes are, it's supposed to be like a silhouette of the logo. Because if you look, it goes like black and then white and then red and gray on the trim. So it's supposed to have that kind of effect. So that makes it a little bit better. But yeah,
I would like to see the jersey that you just made that. You made that up. That
is it better
is
than
that
whatever the Tampa Bay Lightning put together? Because
it's way better. And
I
they did wear
I
it.
saw Baker Mayfield, I think, was wearing one at a Lightning game, and it didn't look better in person.
and
He
that's
was
why
wearing
they lost. That's why Tampa lost.
100%. After wearing that jersey, I would also lack confidence. But if he was wearing this black Buffalo Sabres jersey with the goat head, 100%, he's coming out of that game. He's not throwing he's not throwing that game clinching pick.
Now there it is.
Oh yeah,
that's okay. Yeah,
I like
flip
that.
around the blue.
It's all right. I still like the black one. It's a lot of white.
I mean, but I'm saying like, okay, for the blue jersey, you would just flip all that around. It would be the blue. With I mean, that's to me, that's where it's at.
I still like the black one though. Like I'm still in for that one.
Still in for the black one, the P. Koshek era, we'll call it.
I would like that one, but with like a Finneganov on the back. That's where I would go.
Of all guys, you had to say the guy that broke the Rangers back in that series and won Game 5 overtime and sent it back to the guard. Then Maxim.
I'm pretty sure I have an old. I got it as a gift from. I think my dad bought it for me for 1 year. It is a purple TPS, and it had a Maxim Finneganov curve. That was one of the heaviest sticks I've ever had, and I think that was my dad's indirect way of reminding me as a kid to put my stick down on the ice, because that was the hardest thing I had to do when I was playing. Kept yelling at me to put my stick down. So that curve was nice too. The way that he played was kind of nice. That era of Sabres hockey was pretty good, but when I look at that jersey, yes, most people think of Dominik Hasek. I'm thinking of Maxim Finneganov.
Brian Miller also was, really good for the Sabres back then. They broke. Yeah, that year the Rangers actually had it. They started to look like a good team, and they played Buffalo tough. And then Game 5 they lost in overtime, and that was it. And Game 6 they lost again. So there we go. But whatever. Buffalo still doesn't have a cup. They don't have a cup and haven't been to one since '98. So.
And New York City is much better than downtown Buffalo in every single way.
Correct.
Sorry.
Now, fellas, that'll do it for not only this episode of Bettor Hockey Now, but for at least for a little bit of a hiatus here. We're going to be taking a break. We'll be, hopefully we'll be back here for the, we're taking a break, obviously, and not the ideal time with the NHL just starting to get good here at, All-Star break and beyond. But we'll be back with you by stretch run for the playoffs and playoffs for sure, which is, what we can't wait to talk about. And we'll definitely be back doing drafts in the offseason because that was a lot of fun. And we are going to be taking hiatus here on Bettor Hockey Now on the Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. So first and foremost, if you've watched, we're about 31 episodes in deep here. If you've watched all 31, thank you very much for, we appreciate that. We love doing this, and we can't wait to bring it back to you. So it's not goodbye. It's just, hey, we'll catch you at the next game.
We're on the All-Star break. We're on our own All-Star break right now.
There you go. And if I see, I'm going to be in Hawaii next week, so if I see any hockey related stuff there, I'll be sure to send that out to you boys and make you jealous.
please do send me a visa with it too.
Yeah, sure. You need a visa to come. You don't need a visa to go to Hawaii, do you? From Canada?
I would like to stay there. Because after right, this is very popular for the Les Québécois, but when you go down, you got to come back to Canada. The U.S. kicks you out after 180 days. They're like, hey, go home. And we're like, all right, we'll come back soon again. In 30 days, we'll be here again.
In most states, I'd be like, you'd want to be back before 180, but Hawaii, I can understand them trying to have to kick you out the door. Be like, get on the plane back to Vancouver for your connecting flight.
That's true. You got to connect too.
There's got to be a direct to Hawaii from Toronto or something, right? Or Montreal. There's got to be one daily.
You're not flying into Toronto by choice. You're doing so because it was cheaper, or that was the only connecting flight you could find.
See, I learned something today about traveling to Canada. There you go.
Don't travel out of Toronto Pearson Airport. Do not support the Toronto Maple Leafs goaltending situation. That's all you need to know about Toronto.
The lessons never stop here on Rip and Earth. Or excuse me, Bettor Hockey Now. But see, there you go. That also going on hiatus. But for Christopher Morais, at Fuzzy Chris 91, for at Ant Rivera 86, Anthony Rivera, I am at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard. Stay in touch with us on Twitter. We're going to be back with you soon here on Bettor Hockey Now, and happy hockey watching.